Hey everybody! In today's tutorial, I want to show you kind of a different way to use masking. Instead of in the traditional way, I just want to show you how to use it to help you position a matching die cut for a stamp that you might have. Like maybe a stamp of an adorable fuzzy little bear, like this one. I absolutely love this set. It's in the New Occasions Mini. It's so cute. I also love the Flowering Fields set that you see in the background. But the Fuzzy Wuzzy Bear really stole my heart. So I love him and the bigger bear in the set. That's what the set looks like, just a quick peek. And I have the bear stamped lightly and then masked with a Post-it note. And I have the Flowering Fields stamp set up on my Misty. And this was inspired by a book called Cheerful by Palmer Brown, one of my favorite children's book authors. Those of you who read my blog know I loved The Silver Nutmeg by Palmer Brown. And so my mom bought me Cheerful, and it's just as adorable. The illustrations are so cute. And these two stamp sets, if you put them together, really reminded me of that book. So I thought it would be good to make a card with them. So as you can see, I'm just moving the card around in my Misty and stamping the same image multiple times. I am using India ink, waterproof ink. It dries right away, and it makes it easy for stamping something that I'm going to watercolor, which I guess I've already spoiled the surprise. That's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm just positioning other elements of the stamp set. And as you can see, this is the first time I've used it because I'm removing the paper off the back of the stamp. I like stamp images that have these super detailed little line art drawings. I think because so many of the books of my childhood did have that style of illustration. Now, since these are rubber and I can't really see, I'm just sort of guessing where the stamps would be instead of kind of taking the time to stamp them out on a transparency. I don't need that kind of precision because I'm kind of building a scene. So I just want the general shape of these flowers. Now, you can see that I wanted the bear to sort of be in front of a couple of the flowers, and that's why I stamped him and masked him. But since I'm not using that base image, I'm just using a die cut, I think you'll see how having him there and having the image there does make all that positioning a lot easier. Now for watercolor, I'm just going to use my Koi travel set. I love this. It's sort of my go-to set. And, I just leave the colors that I used from last time, and then that's what I end up using for the next project. So, it is what it is. I don't really plan that out in advance. I'm just like, oh, those are pretty. I'll use those. These are my new silver brushes. I got enabled into these by somebody, I don't remember who. So I'm trying them out for the first time. They are beautiful. And I got them in a super hefty discount, so I'm excited to see if they're as awesome as everybody says they are. My goal with this image, since it is sort of a sketchy, actually both of these images are sort of sketchy. I mean, both this stamp set, sorry, is not to be precise. I'm not going to try to color inside the lines. I want the color to be outside the lines. I want it to look more like an illustration in a book than it does just a precise painting. So I'm not being careful at all in filling in the foliage or the flowers. I just want the color to pop on top of that super intricate and detailed design. And I love this. This brush is really precise, actually, this smaller one that I'm using. It has a very fine tip. It's nice and soft, so I can make different shapes with the brush. But it does allow me to get into some of these. These really are pretty small images, to get into some of these smaller areas easily without it spreading out too much. So I just did the foliage first, and then I'll come back to the flowers. I had made myself a nice sunny yellow up top right on my palette. And I started with that, and then I'm going to add some red, actually more of a magenta in the, what would be the shaded areas of the flower. I have no idea what kind of flower this is, so it's completely made up along with my colors, which making things up is my favorite. So I'm not going for realism here. And then I'll use that magenta or kind of raspberry color on the larger one in the center and give it some shading with a violet. I think that's a pretty combo. Adds a little bit of depth to that flower. And since I have 3 of the same type of flower, and this is sort of the dominant image besides the bear, I wanted the color schemes to be different from each other and very vivid and sort of be my focal points behind the bear, if that makes sense. Then I have this little thing that looks like a thistle down at the bottom, so I went with sort of thistle-y colors, that olive green and then a little bit of a purple. I'm going to end up cutting part of that image off because you can see I positioned my barrel a little bit higher and sort of stamped the flowers off the edge of the page just to give myself a little bit of room to work with. But I did want to get part of that thistle image in there because I think it's pretty. Now I'm moving on to the little, they look like bluebells to me. I also don't know what these are, but I colored them blue and shaded with purple. And it's amazing how much depth you can get, even in a tiny image like this. Just adding a second color can really give you sort of the shading, or at least the illusion of 3 dimensions that you might want in your flowers. And so I encourage you to add a second color whenever you're watercoloring. Actually, add 5 colors. Add lots of colors. The more you do, the more visual interest you'll get, I think. And add colors from the images that are next to the image that you're painting, as if light were reflected and a little bit of the color were reflected too. Now comes my favorite part, which is filling in the background of the sky. And I want to do this in a very not methodical way. I want to have very uneven color in the background because that's what will give the illusion of clouds. So if I'm putting a lot of blue down and then not very much and then none, it will give me that look that a textured cloud sky has. And so the important thing is to just relax and not be too precise when you're doing this. And for some reason, I like to do my sky last. I don't know why. It's just my finishing touch, but you could certainly do this first if you're worried about reactivating the watercolor that's already down on the page. I don't worry too much about that. I do want to make sure that I get the color in. Since I don't really have ground in this scene, I do need the sky to sort of come all the way down. My little bear is sort of floating. He's not standing on the earth. But the sky can come together really, really quickly in the background and just give it exactly what it needed to make those flowers pop off the page, I think. So now I'm going to peel the mask off and you can see where that little guy is and how it looks like his arms are sort of in front of those flowers. And that helps me determine where I'm going to position the die cut when it's all said and done. I added greetings from the set, as you can see, those cute little sentiments, and made my bear just plain white, just so he could stand out and be happy in his little field of flowers. So I hope you enjoyed this little painting. Thanks so much for watching.